In a small village, there lived a little tailor who spent his days sewing quietly in his tiny workshop. One sunny morning, he bought a pot of sweet jam from an old woman passing by his window. He spread the jam on a slice of bread and placed it on his work table, eager to enjoy it after finishing his sewing. But as he worked with needle and thread, a swarm of flies buzzed in through the open window. The flies landed all over his bread, crawling and feasting on the sweet, sticky jam without any fear. The little tailor noticed the flies covering his meal, and his face turned red with frustration and anger. He grabbed a piece of cloth from his table and raised it high above the swarm of greedy little flies. With one powerful strike, he slammed the cloth down hard, and 7 flies lay dead on the table at once. The little tailor stared at the 7 dead flies on his table and felt a great surge of pride in his chest. He puffed out his chest and decided that the whole world must know about his incredible feat of strength. He picked up his finest needle and a spool of golden thread from his sewing box on the shelf. With careful stitches, he embroidered the words 7 at one blow across a sturdy leather belt. He held the finished belt up to the morning light, admiring the bold golden letters shining brightly. The little tailor fastened the belt around his waist and stood tall before a small, cracked mirror. He looked at his own reflection and smiled wide, feeling like the bravest hero in the entire land. With the magic belt strapped on tight, he packed a small piece of cheese and marched toward the door. The little tailor left his workshop behind and walked down the dusty village road under the bright sun. He whistled a happy tune as he strolled past farms and fields, his magic belt gleaming at his waist. Soon the green fields ended, and a dark, thick forest appeared ahead, casting long shadows on the path. He stepped bravely into the dark forest, where twisted old trees blocked most of the sunlight above. Strange sounds echoed through the fog, but the little tailor kept walking forward without any hesitation. Travelers on the road saw the words on his belt and stepped aside in fear, bowing their heads low. Word of the mighty warrior who slew 7 at one blow began spreading fast through every nearby town. The little tailor grinned and walked taller with each step, enjoying his growing fame across the land. The little tailor arrived at the gates of a grand castle, its tall towers rising high into the cloudy sky. Royal guards spotted the words on his belt and rushed inside to report the arrival of a great warrior. Inside the throne room, the king sat nervously on his golden chair, stroking his long white beard. The king had heard the tales of the man who killed 7 at one blow, and feared his mighty power. The great doors swung open, and the little tailor walked in boldly, his belt shining under the torchlight. The little tailor bowed before the throne, while the king studied him carefully from head to toe. The king was surprised to see such a small man, but the golden words on the belt filled him with worry. The king leaned forward on his throne and began to think of a dangerous plan to test this stranger. The king told the little tailor that 2 terrible giants were destroying villages at the edge of his land. The king promised that if the tailor could defeat the giants, he would give his daughter's hand in marriage. The beautiful princess stood beside the throne, watching the small tailor with curious, uncertain eyes. The little tailor accepted the challenge without fear and bowed deeply before the king and the princess. He marched out of the castle gates alone, heading straight into the dark forest to find the 2 giants. Deep in the forest, he heard the ground shake and trees crack under the heavy footsteps of the giants. He crept through the thick fog and finally spotted the two enormous giants sleeping under a huge oak tree. The little tailor studied the sleeping giants carefully, and a clever plan began forming inside his mind. The little tailor quietly climbed up the tall oak tree, while the two giants snored loudly down below. He sat on a thick branch high above and filled his pockets with heavy stones from a hollow in the trunk. He dropped a stone right onto the first giant's face, and the beast grunted and glared at the other giant. The first giant shoved the second giant hard, but the second giant swore he had done nothing at all. The little tailor waited for them to fall back asleep, and then threw another stone at the second giant. The second giant roared in rage and punched the first giant, and a furious fight erupted between them. The two giants smashed each other with clubs and boulders, uprooting trees and shaking the whole forest. When the dust settled, both giants lay defeated on the ground, and the little tailor climbed down smiling. The little tailor returned to the castle and proudly told the king that the two giants were no more. The king was shocked, but refused to give up, and ordered the tailor to capture a wild, fierce unicorn. The little tailor headed back into the dark forest once more, searching for the dangerous magical beast. He soon found the unicorn standing in a misty clearing, its sharp horn gleaming and its eyes burning red. The unicorn spotted the tailor and charged at him with terrifying speed, lowering its long, sharp horn. The tailor stood perfectly still in front of a thick tree trunk and waited for the beast to get closer. At the very last second, he jumped aside, and the unicorn's horn drove deep into the solid tree trunk. The unicorn struggled, but its horn was stuck tight, and the little tailor danced with joy at his victory. Once again, the little tailor returned to the castle, and once again the king gave him a final deadly task. A monstrous wild boar had been terrorizing the countryside, and no knight had ever survived facing it. The little tailor entered the dark forest for the last time, and soon heard angry grunting in the bushes. The wild boar burst out from the trees, massive and furious, its sharp tusks gleaming in the dim light. The beast charged straight at the tailor, smashing through everything in its path with unstoppable force. The little tailor turned and ran toward a small stone chapel, standing at the edge of the forest clearing. He dashed inside through the front door and quickly leaped out through a narrow window on the far side. The boar followed him inside, but got trapped, and the tailor slammed the heavy door shut behind the beast. The little tailor returned to the castle for the last time, victorious and proud after defeating every dangerous beast. The king sat silently on his throne, knowing he had no more excuses left and must finally keep his royal promise. With a heavy sigh, the king rose from his golden chair and announced the wedding of his daughter to the brave tailor. The beautiful princess stepped forward in a shimmering white gown, looking at the little tailor with a gentle, warm smile. The grand halls of the castle were decorated with flowers and golden banners for the greatest celebration in years. The little tailor stood at the altar in his finest clothes, his magic belt gleaming proudly around his waist as always. The princess placed her hand in the tailor's hand, and the king blessed their union before the cheering royal court. Music filled the castle halls. People danced and feasted joyfully, celebrating the wedding of the brave little tailor. Days passed after the grand wedding, and the little tailor began his new life inside the beautiful royal castle walls. One quiet night,
The princess heard the tailor mumbling in his sleep about needles, thread, and sewing fine cloth. She realized with great surprise that her husband was not a mighty warrior at all, but only a simple little tailor. The princess told her father the truth, but the little tailor had already earned the love and respect of the people. He had proven through courage and cleverness that a sharp mind is far more powerful than the strongest pair of fists. No one in the kingdom cared that he was once a humble tailor, for his brave deeds had spoken louder than any title. The little tailor, still wearing his beloved magic belt, sat upon the golden throne and became a wise and just ruler. And so the brave little tailor and the kind princess lived together in peace and happiness for the rest of their days.